Welcome, everybody, to the Trading Addicts Podcast. This is our first episode. We are the chillest trading podcast in the world. You guys are going to be getting weekly episodes of trading, entertainment, education. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things. Let me introduce you, or let our host introduce themselves. We're going to be starting off with Jordan. Where are you from? How do you like to trade? What do the people need to know about you?
Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Jordan. I'm from Southern California, 19 years old, and I've been trading for about 2 years now, so just over 2 years, been getting into this. I'm a COVID baby, so started trading during COVID and everything, and I'm a scalper for the most part, so I love to be in and out, quick trades. I don't like sitting in the market for too long, so yeah, that's me, baby.
Awesome. Next up, we got Garrity. Let the people know a little bit about yourself.
Up, guys? Garrity, the podcast honorary DGen, from Jersey, born and raised, right outside of the city. I would say I'm very new to trading compared to everyone else on here. I would say not even a year yet. So I started in February last year, where I got into it. I would say I'm definitely a little bit intraday trader. Basically, I would say supply, demand, support, resistance, patterns, volume confirmation. Took a little bit from everyone, but still figuring it out. But yeah, that's me.
Next up, the man himself, Zeke. What's going on?
So it's Zeke here. Been trading for about 2 years now. Been trading for options for about a year and a half. Mainly like to play like reversals, and then I also look for like flags and wedges for continuations. Don't really swing too much. Mainly a day trader. Don't like to hold stuff overnight. I'm in New York, a little bit north of the city. Love watching soccer. Been enjoying golf a lot recently, which is really fun. I also work full time. In the process of taking over my dad's business. So during the day, I trade whenever I have the free time, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And next up, we got the man who needs no introduction, Keanu Trades. You can't see his face, but you can see his picture. What's going on?
I live about 2 hours away from Jordan, Southern California. I'm more by Disneyland. He's on the Santa Barbara side of LA, if anybody knows what that means. Been trading probably about 4 or 5 years, options 3 years, 3.5. And it's been going really well. Met some really cool people along the way, and they're joining me for this podcast today. Long time coming. We've talked about doing some things here and there, but finally making it happen, baby. So appreciate Champ for being the type A personality we need to get this going, baby.
Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, myself, everybody, if you don't know me, Champion Vibe. I've been trading pretty much about the same amount of time as Jordan. Since around COVID is when I started. Swing trades are my bread and butter. However, it's not been great to do that in the market lately. So I have kind of transitioned more into day trading. I grew up in Long Island, lived in Miami right now, going to college pretty much over here, as you can see on your screen. And yeah, I'm really excited for this podcast. We did have FOMC this week. Pretty much across the board, they're intending to keep rates higher. Personally, I don't have anything against that. I really was a little bit shell shocked by how many times Powell used the word transitory in 2020 to now see where inflation is currently at, and I'm completely flip. But at this point, I think everybody can agree that yeah, inflation is a really big issue. I'm just interested to see, as we progress, if it doesn't come down a little bit sooner, how long can they keep this going? Because this is obviously has already affected the market and will continue to do so. So with the FOMC, I just really want to see, will they change their approach? Or are they just going to keep doing the same exact thing until hopefully it eventually works? Because we've seen this in the past, but this time it just feels a little bit different.
Yeah. Intraday today, I felt like Bears had no follow through. Like they just kind of let Bulls just kind of take over. There wasn't much pressure from Bears, and they were just like, all right, you know what, let it go, whatever. Volume came in, sure. But when you're talking about Powell and Bullard yesterday, and a lot of the things that they're talking about that I've tried to pick up on a little bit more recently is the words and the verbiage that they're using, because someone brought up in spaces the past few weeks that there are a lot of algorithms that pick up on specific words that they are using to not manipulate the market but taper expectations. And I think that there are definitely a lot of things that this is going to be, I think, at least personally, a little bit more sustained period of where we're at in terms of the interest rates. But at the same time, there's always so many things that can affect it. That there's a lot of numbers that came out with wages, and there's a lot of things that go a lot deeper than just jobs created. And everyone sees the big headline of jobs created, beat numbers, but when you look down into it a little bit more deeper into the actual wage numbers versus the average income for American households and things like that, like it's getting a little tight for everyone. So it'll be very interesting to see how long this can last.
Do you guys see prices coming down lately or staying up? What have you been noticing?
Do we see what coming down?
Prices, like in your life.
No,
I feel like no.
Gas a little bit. I mean, gas was at like 5 something, and now it's just above $4 here in Cali. But
Yeah.
I went and
I haven't
visited
really
a
been paying
friend.
attention to groceries and stuff. But
To me, yeah,
I know
food like
groceries
eggs.
skyrocketed.
I don't know why eggs just keep going up. I like my eggs.
Yeah. Even I drove out to Pennsylvania to visit a buddy of mine last weekend for New Year's, and gas was like in the middle of rural Pennsylvania, like not even near like a big city. It was like $6.75.
Oh my-
And
That's ridiculous.
Crazy, yeah.
More than here.
yeah, I could not believe it. Like in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania too. It's just that's the stuff that because I don't have a car because I'm, I work in the city, work from home.
Yeah,
I
no
don't need to
reason.
travel.
Yeah.
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 So I don't really see that often. But when I saw it, I was like, how are people like sustaining gas, driving to work, commuting, all these things when it's I don't even know how much it is to fill a tank right now. Probably if you got an SUV, like 100, $120.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's-
I have a 4-cylinder. I spend over $50 just to fill it up, and I'm like, bro, I used to spend $20 and this thing was full. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and for a while it felt like we kept hearing things about the economy. I'd say leading up into the beginning of 2022, but you still had stocks going higher and higher. Companies themselves were continuing to beat on earnings, but now we're getting to the point where it was kind of a lagging effect, where what was going on in the economy with consumer spending is now affecting our largest companies, which in turn is affecting the SPY, the Qs, indices like that. This past weekend, Tesla came out with their deliveries for 2022. They had 1.3 million vehicles delivered. The year before was about 900K. So they did increase, but they still missed on analyst expectations. Apple as well, they're not getting iPhone 14s into the US. There's a lot of issues with their factories in China. That's been going on for a while now, but this can make things even worse for companies like that. We already saw what happened with Meta. Amazon's had its issues as well. So those big companies, the ones where big money puts their money into, are now getting affected by things like this. And I think that's probably at this point, maybe even a bigger risk for the stock market than things like GDP, even though that will affect GDP, but also CPI and stuff like that. I think we're getting to the point where that's not under control, but we're at least working on it. Now we're seeing the backlash for those companies. And that's something I've been thinking about more. We've already seen small caps, some of them lose over 90% of their value. They're just trading at very different PEs as compared to exactly a year ago, when maybe some of these companies actually don't deserve to be trading that low. But it doesn't matter right now. People will pretty much be making the price of these stocks, institutions and retail traders as well, based on what they're seeing today. So that's going to change in the future, but it takes time for that change to take place. And until you really start to see good earnings again, which is something I'm really looking forward to in this earnings season, which companies are actually able to kind of withstand all of this stuff, that's when you're maybe going to start to see like that stock picking environment, which is what I personally love. You just haven't had in like a year.
Yeah. And I guess this is a question for you guys because, I know Jordan trades QQQ. You kind of pick and choose the stocks that you work with. Zeke's a little bit all over. Same with Keanu. I really only trade SPX and SPY. But when you're playing, those specific tickers and the companies, when, Tesla delivery numbers, they fell off. Apple starts to sell off. Amazon is laying off 17,000 people. But today, everything's green. How are you approaching a day like that? Because in my head, I'm seeing this. I'm like, what? We're projected to go lower on earnings next year. On CNBC, they're talking about, there's a 45% chance that we hit below 3,600 on the S&P 500 next year. But at the same time today, huge move. So like, what are you looking at, or how are you approaching hearing those news pre-market?
For me, I don't really trade names that get news catalysts a lot. I just like to trade names that have like a clean chart. That way there's not that much volatility. But a lot of times when you get that sort of news, it's not necessarily priced in right away. Sometimes it takes time, and a lot of times you would think some news may be bearish, but it goes the other way, and buyers get excited and stuff. Um, yeah, I don't like the swing trade because those kinds of catalysts and everything can really affect that a lot.
That scares the
Um,
hell out of me, swing trading.
yeah, the overnight risk and everything, not for me. I like to be out at the end of the day, got all my cash and just sitting like that. So yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could able to sleep.
What's up, Keanu?
I said, yeah, you can actually sleep instead of swing trading and staring at futures, praying.
Yeah, right. I mean, Garrity too, like that move today for me, I mean, you guys know I keep it like as simple as possible, right? So when I see that move and then I hear all this news and all this stuff going on in the world, it sounds bad, but I kind of just mute that shit in the world. I mute it all and I'm like, it's not relevant for my trading personally. So I don't even pay attention to it. I'm like, let me read the price action. That's all that
You can
matters for
make
me.
it not
So for me, it's
relevant.
like I'm in the mindset of like we're kind of ripping. I'm definitely looking for us to keep going up and maybe continue this move. But yeah, like all that stuff, it is very important for our economy and what's going on in the world. But for my trading personally, I can just write it all off like I don't care about it because
Like it
it's
could
not even relevant.
it could spike and dip like on news and stuff, but at the end of the day, it'll be like we had one the other day and it dipped on news and it dipped right off of yesterday's high of the day. So
Yeah.
Right.
it can be whipsaw, but at the same time, I was like, okay, if we break this, retest it, and go down, I'm in puts. I'm not going to chase that whipsaw movement.
But you're still
Exactly.
in you're playing off the TA, not the news, like you said, versus me where, this is my DGen novice rookie self that's like, this isn't a good thing that just got reported. Like, why are we going up? Like, they
Yeah.
just said that there's, this is not good. So
Another-
like, why did we get a 90-point move up today? Like, and then I'm justifying that shit in my head. So dumb.
Yeah, another thing I
Exactly.
feel like a lot of traders don't really put a lot of thought into is whenever you do get news, especially that's related to a company, it can take a long time for that to mean anything. A lot of the times you're going to see weak guidance and a stock go up after hours. Why? If there was already bad expectations for the stock, at least the company's admitting it. And if they do outperform in the future, people are going to be thinking they have weak guidance. Now what happens if they beat on their next earnings? And they're saying it themselves. We look at FOMC. We've had a lot of times where with the rate hikes and everything, or just things when Powell talks during the Q&A, which could sound bad, and then the market spikes up. There's a lot of those times where, and I know there's a lot of traders as well, like they see the initial move off the FOMC, they do the exact opposite. You see like a huge red flush candle, traders go right into calls, and then they look for the reversal on that. The same thing happens with companies who can like beat on EPS and revs, and then immediately the stock is going down, right? All these different things do matter. Fundamentals, of course, they matter over time. But when you're trading short term, you kind of have to double think things sometimes. What seems bad right now might actually get a good reaction because of expectations. And expectations is really the key word that even as a technical trader, you want to understand. Because if you're just trading the short term, the next move, you need to understand what other traders are thinking. It might not just be about the news. How are people interpreting that news? And more importantly, in the real time, trading that news.
Yeah, 100%.
It kind of goes into like what you're saying, how sometimes the news isn't necessarily affecting the stock price right away. So say there's like some sort of reaction, but we're watching it and we see it like move down to a big support level or the previous day low or something. That could give us a better entry point to just make like a quick trade off of it and not necessarily think about the longer term effects of what that news might actually mean. Like it's still, like we were saying, it's still important to be aware of that, but at least like intraday or short term, it could give you better opportunities if you play the price action correctly.
Yeah, and it's all gonna vary for your trading, right? Like I know Champ is gonna be a lot more like paying more attention to the news if he's in a swing play, right, overnight versus me. I'm cash overnight. I don't care what happens, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But people that are swinging, it's all gonna vary on your strategy, So yeah, it's good stuff.
Absolutely. So Now I want to transition into somebody who was kind of made the face of CNBC for a long time, Jim Cramer. There's a couple things I want to talk about here. First of all, crypto. Very recently, Jim Cramer was on the show talking about how people who are currently investing in crypto, to him, are stupid. Now, we saw what happened with FTX and a lot of other exchanges showing a lot of risk for people who have their money pretty much put into those. So his argument was more around you want to have safety wherever you're putting your money. I think he said he just leaves his money in JP Morgan. He checks it every single Monday. His money's there. He feels good. To me, that is a classic Cramer statement. I think the crypto market in general right now is very confusing. But there are exchanges, Coinbase, Binance, who for the most part, I know they've had some mess ups here and there, but they, for the most part, they're still growing as companies. I know Coinbase is publicly traded here. To generalize things like that is something that's very common for him. But that does lead me into my next point. With major sell-offs in crypto, do you guys think that buying Bitcoin at 16K, buying ETH above 1K, just above 1K, is something that makes sense currently long term, or do you think there is more downside? I actually want to start off with Zeke here because I know you have a big level you've been talking about for Bitcoin. What do you think? Do you think we're still going to get there?
Just looking at the weekly, I do think that there is more downside. I think 14K is just like a logical previous resistance that could be tested. And yeah, I do think long term there definitely is potential for some good returns in crypto. There's always been cycles that Bitcoin goes up crazy amounts and then it always pulls back a good amount, but historically it's always ended up making another bull run. So whenever that cycle ends up happening, there's definitely places that you can get into it and profit off that. But yeah, I mean, personally, I don't like Cramer. He always seems to get things wrong. I'm not tooting my own horn or anybody else's, but like I can do what he does. I feel like just saying things and like I get so many things wrong, just like everybody else does. But yeah, I don't know. I love the inverse Cramer like Twitter account. They always talk about how like the inverse Cramer ETF is like up 30% or something. The SPY's down like 20% last year or whatever. But yeah.
Kramer's the personality. Like I feel like he's like leaning into it at this point of like whatever the take is for him. He's got to be. I kind of relate him to like the Skip Bayless of finance. Just kind of playing the opposite of everyone else, where he's just kind of a little bit of a dick and likes to rub people the wrong way and just to get a reaction. His job isn't to predict the market. His job is to get numbers and eyes on CNBC and to get impressions. So feel like he's doing it to do his job, but at the same time, at least for me personally, with crypto, in 2018 when it first became like a big thing, I dabbled into it, but since then with just the, I guess it's unregulated unknown of the future of blockchain, I understand it. I think the concept's phenomenal, but at the same time, there's just so much room for unknown going on. So I do think that there is, at least for me personally, I'm not gonna like put my life savings into Bitcoin, hoping that it's gonna make a huge return, back up to whatever it is, but or 60K. If you have the money and you want to play lotto and buy a scratch off, go for it for me. But for on that side of things, I'm kind of sticking with what I'm playing with.
Yeah.
Tim, didn't you get into trading around the big Bitcoin run around COVID? That's what you're saying, right?
So no, I got into crypto in 2017 when it was like when I first changed jobs and I was in an office. It like started getting chatter in the office, like around the water cooler, of like, yo, like Bitcoin, I it's at like 3K, like it's going to the moon, dude. Like I remember I had Ethereum when it was like $270, and I was like, forget this, dude. Like I'm out. Like I don't like I saw it go down like 10%. I was like, nope, I'm out. And then of course you see it years later. If I held on to it, all that, but no, I crypto, I never really stuck by it.
Yeah, I have such mixed emotions with crypto. Like I started out trading some crypto a little bit, like past 2 years, but it never really worked out. I traded some futures. I just didn't see the point of it for the most part. I was like right now, obviously, there's opportunity to buy up these companies or these cryptos, at low prices for sure. But for me personally, I'd rather be putting my money into these low prices of stocks. And, Tesla's at $100 almost. Like, I'm buying up companies instead of crypto personally. But it's another opportunity, right? There's always going to be more opportunities, and you have to decide whether you want to take them or not. So I think it's definitely going to pay a lot of people that take the long-term look on it. But yeah, I don't see any like short-term.
If I can't see what your product is, like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or all these cryptos, like what is your purpose? Like
Yeah.
Tesla and Apple and
That's
all
the
these
hard
other
thing. Like with trading a crypto, it's you feel like you're trading nothing, and it's like at least with Tesla, it's like I can follow what the company's doing if I'm in it long term, and I can, you know, i- there's a company to go off of. Where crypto,
Yeah.
it's so unknown, like you're saying.
Yano
It's hard.
talks about it all the time. He's like, Tesla, they have these technology things and pillars in place for long-term expansions into other areas of technology and markets and, whether it's, cell phones or whatever. But with these other cryptos, I don't see the potential of what it could be, I
To
don't know.
me, there's pros and cons. I think one big thing is a lot of points that people made in terms of investors into crypto in 2019, 2020 have kind of been disproven. The big one to me is Bitcoin being a hedge to inflation. Inflation rose, Bitcoin has fallen a very steep amount from its all-time highs. I think NFTs have a potential for the future, but in terms of how a lot of influencers and even some companies like GameStop and others kind of use NFTs to just make a quick buck. I think that put a very bad light onto that space as well. Um, and FTX, a lot of other exchange issues. So those things are really big obstacles that I think have solutions, but will take a long time. In terms of the pros, though, I do think that crypto is a space where you can generate attention very easily. It's very digital. It works very well with social media compared to stocks, which is a little bit more old school. And then decentralization, I do think at some point, whether it's through Web3, NFTs, or just coins themselves, I do think that decentralization will be something that a lot of people will move towards. It's just, I feel like everybody wanted mass adoption for that. Like now, we are still too ingrained in our current system financially. I think at least for the next 5 to 10 years, for there to be mass adoptions in terms of your grandma's using it, your 15-year-old son in high school is using it, stuff like that. Maybe 20, 30, 40-year-old, I think definitely geared towards males is kind of the demographic for crypto right now, or at least in the last 5 years. But you need to kind of make it something that is, number one, more understandable to everybody, but number two, safer, right? So you don't have things like FTX happening. Also, rug pulls on Bitcoin out of nowhere, like the COVID crash. But again, that happened with all the financial markets. And at the same time, still progressive. That's also been the other thing. How are you going to continue to create attention in this space if there is, like you said, no product? Because a lot of these stocks, not stocks, a lot of these coins are moving based on attention at the end of the day. And the one thing I will say just for trading is that it kind of does help sometimes, at least when the crypto market is good, not right now, to have the fact that there's not news every single day moving it up and down, gapping up and down. The market's open all the time. And you can literally just trade the charts. And I think that's why there's been a lot of people who have looked at crypto as a perfect place, even though it's not a perfect place, but at least for technical analysis, because you're just seeing pattern after pattern. And a lot of crypto traders are trading solely off of technicals. Over the past few years, that number has definitely increased in stocks, but you cannot tell me 30, 40 years ago that most stock traders were using technicals. Yes, technical analysis was something that was growing then, but a lot of these funds were making fun of the TA guys. Oh, you're drawing lines on charts, like that's just BS. And now you're actually starting to see people on CNBC talking about it. I still remember in 2020, nobody would talk about technicals on CNBC. Now we see this bear market. I see so many analysts coming onto CNBC who were talking bad about technicals, saying that, oh, I'm looking at this level and this level, because all these stocks that they said were so fundamentally great are now falling apart. So now they're looking at the levels. And that is something that I think at least crypto has done a decent job to shine a light on.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, just talk about like talk about freaking TA to anyone over like 40 for the most part. Like they don't even they're all ingrained for long term, which I totally understand, right? That's
Yeah.
That's where our past was for sure. But like, yeah, they look at you like you're crazy for using technical analysis. It's, you know what I mean? But it's relevant for what we're doing.
I was just gonna say quickly, I've been listening to the Trading the Zone book by Mark Douglas. I've just been listening to the audiobook, and there's a point in there where he says like, yeah, back in the day, like people who use technicals were just looked at like clowns and like frowned upon, and they were like, "What are you doing? Like you're crazy, you're insane." And I feel like yeah, more recently over the past few years for sure, it's just been more mainstream kind of. A lot more people are jumping on that.
Yeah. Next up, I want to move into AI. We are seeing this new explosion of AI platforms. I think the big one for a lot of people that woke a lot of people up to AI, at least online, was ChatGPT. Very recently, we've been getting some reports about a potential $29 billion buyout for OpenAI, which I believe is the parent company behind ChatGPT. And this is something that I've been putting a lot of thought into. I like emerging industries. There's nothing new about AI, but the way that is being portrayed in social media is very new. And to me, I don't see this stopping, but I do see a lot of revenue issues for companies heading into AI because a lot of these things can be replicated easily. We had this, I'm sure a lot of you saw people on Instagram, all over social media posting like these AI generated images of themselves, like nonstop, like these avatars that were created. There was this app called Lensa AI, and the revenue is down to $206,000 per day, which is down 92% from its peak back in December. So you saw a lot of people say, wow, this AI is really cool, whatever. It created a lot of attention very quickly. But once people use the tools, I feel, at least for right now, they are getting over them very quickly. I still remember personally ChatGPT. I saw these things on Twitter about it. I started using it here and there. But then it just gets to the point where it's like you feel like it is so easy that it kind of loses its short-term value. So I think long-term value needs to be created right there. And there's also like a lot of questions as to, will this take away jobs? I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about stuff like that, but what are your thoughts on AI in general, short term?
At
Go
least
for it,
for
Garrity.
me, on my side of things with it, I was using Chat GPT a few weekends ago with a few buddies of mine, and we were literally going through like asking different prompts of different things for all of our jobs day to day. Like my buddy runs a construction company, concrete, yeah, finance, whatever, like HR. You ask it to write out a job description for a salesperson as it pertains to construction, concrete, for Northeast or whatever, and it literally prints out exactly what you need. And then you can say, we told it, well, make this uh, and write it as if you were speaking to a fifth grader.
Yeah,
And
you
it
can say how
does it prompt.
complicated to make it or how complex to make it.
And when it's doing that kind of stuff, I think there's going to be a lot of things that could affect jobs that are much more manual right now, which long term, when AI starts, everything's automated, everything's cool and sexy and fun. But like Champ was saying, when you have things like that, it loses its steam very quickly. And when you're a business and you have revenue and then you have shareholders or you have investors and you have VCs and things like that, and you don't have, or you have KPIs, but you can't really narrow down exactly what your targets are because you don't really have, well, again, like a product that you're selling that makes revenue. Like you can get users and everything like that, but how are you really turning this into a business other than just a tool or an asset, which is totally different? If you want to go that route, great. But when it comes to like business side of things, like Champ was saying, I don't know. It has that. It's cool right now, but what have you done for me lately, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
think
be
the issue comes down to a lot of these new startups are most likely going to end up putting these behind paywalls, subscribe a monthly fee to access this. My issue with that is, again, you can replicate a lot of these things. That app, Lensa AI, I'm pretty sure to get like your actual bundle of images created for you would cost a certain amount of money. TikTok just came out with a lens you can use. It's like a little filter that does it for free. So now it's very
Mhm.
easy to copy these certain bots and everything. And to me, the place where some of these startups and companies should maybe start looking into is advertising, right? That's probably the easiest way to make revenue and to get the most amount of people using your bot. Now, I know this is going to bring up a lot of discussions about data. How are they kind of storing this data with all of these search queries that everybody's having? I'm not expertise enough to like say anything about that. That's probably another way that people are going to look to make money with stuff like this. It reminds me of social media about 10 years ago. And I don't know, we're just getting to this dynamic place where you're going to start to see more and more companies lean into stuff like that. And it's going to really shake up, especially like you said, the workplace.
Yeah, it's like go watch the Social Network movie again, like with Facebook. That's exactly
Yeah.
like what this is, just a different version of it. Like you,
Yeah,
you have
I
this
didn't know
great
over
thing.
New Year's. I tried out that ChatGPT thing. My friend was like, "Have you seen this?" I'm like, "I've heard about it, but I haven't tried it." Dude, we tried it. My mind was blown for sure because I was like,
What
"Why
did it?
use,
Can we
after
say
this? Why use Google? Why even use Google when I have, an AI generated answer here for
so?
me?"
Yeah.
And obviously they can be wrong, right? But it's I don't know. It's interesting to me, and I think it could go
Better
pretty far.
time.
So
They're
it's
only gonna get smarter and stuff. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
what is it?
It's literally like Google search engine. It's like that, but you're asking an AI bot, and it generates an answer from what it's learned in the past.
Like
That's why I love it because it's
Wait,
based on all of
about
what
it?
it's learned. What's up, Keanu?
Did Elon Musk tweet about it?
I have no clue.
yeah, he's talked about it a few times, but yeah, it's like
Didn't it say
very
New Jersey schools outlawed it or some crap? Like I thought he tweeted that.
Well, like I asked it how to day trade, and I was expecting it to be like like something stupid, like an average person would answer, and it told me it's like pick one stock, go go study, blah blah blah. This it was such an answer that we would give to people. You know what I mean? And I was like, dude, this thing is smarter than I thought for sure. You know what I mean? So I like you look up how to day trade on Google, you're never gonna get anywhere. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think it could turn into something crazy for sure.
Wow.
Pretty scary. I know that Elon talks about how robots and AI and such can I think he says like 5 to 10 years or something like that can start replacing like simple jobs and that people do in the workplace. And I know he has that Neuralink thing, which is just absolutely insane. But yeah, I think AI is here and it's not going anywhere, and it's only gonna get smarter and smarter, which is a little scary, but we'll see. It can definitely be helpful. Um, yeah, it's a little scary for sure.
I mean it even yesterday I saw someone it put together like a lead generation tool by itself, or you can ask it to write a code for a specific function with like HTML or whatever it might be, like a Discord bot, like shit like that. It's absolutely insane. It is absolutely insane. Like we asked it, uh, yeah, like will Michigan? We asked it because we were watching the college football semifinals. Will Michigan beat TCU? It says that it can't predict the outcome of the future events, but then it brought out like three different tools or statistics about the offense versus the defense, the over, the under, like all
Yeah.
these things. It's
Same
like,
thing with Tesla. I asked a
yeah,
5-year outlook of Tesla, and it's like I could never answer that. But here's the facts of what I know. Basically, I was
yeah.
like, this is
Yeah, it says
the
New
best
York
answer possible.
and Chat GPT amid cheating worries.
Now the thing with this as well is they are now building AIs to detect whether, let's say, an essay you wrote or whatever paper you wrote was written by an AI. So you're now kind of entering this inception stage, and I mean, it's just, to me, it's crazy. Like, what happens when you start asking these AIs to build new AIs, and then it's just like it just creates this whole entire ripple effect where it's like you could literally use it for anything. There's so much power at our hands. How are
Yeah,
they going
fuck
to
Mark
make
Mills,
money out of
man.
this? Is my big question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for real. Because I
exactly.
don't think the monthly subscriptions are really like the end goal or like enough. You know what I mean? Like,
Like you said,
oh
the paywalls, like that's the easiest way to make money. But
yeah,
the the thing that most people want is either that open AI or the IP and the intellectual property or the actual coding. And yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. I mean, it scares that living shit out of me.
I know, it's
Like it
freaky.
really does. Like talk about not sleeping. That keeps me up at night. I'm like, oh
Like
my
you were
God.
saying, Jordan, as you put more information into it, it just like remembers that and then just continues to keep that and use it for the next thing, and then it gets more data and just
Yeah.
I mean,
multiply
and
it.
remember, it's not just Chat GPT. I mean, my
Right.
buddy has a Tesla, and we were driving up to my gym, and freaking, I remember there's this one really gnarly corner we take on the way up there, and the first time we had it on self-driving, and it went completely in the other lane, and then the second time it did a little better, and the third time it did it perfectly, and it's crazy. You have to realize like these bots, these AI, they're learning, right? They're constantly learning. Like Tesla, it's not just a car company, right? It's a database company. They store data constantly. Their
Yeah.
cars are learning all the
Mhm.
time on the road. So I don't know. When you look at it from that perspective, it's scary. It's wild. It's crazy that we have that in our world right now.
Yeah. So like I asked it how does inflation affect the stock market? It gave me like 3 different things, and now I'm gonna explain it to it as if it was like a 10-year-old. And it'll literally generate the same thing all over again, which is absolutely insane. Inflation is when prices of things go up over time. When prices go up, it can make it harder for people and businesses to buy things because they cost more money. It can affect the stock market because it can change how much money a company makes and how much they can pay people who own their stock, called dividends. It can also change how much it costs for a company to borrow money, which can affect the stock market. So when we're thinking about investing in the stock, it's important to think about how inflation might affect it
Yeah.
immediately.
Wild.
Like I would put that on a website.
It is saying
But,
stuff. So is fluff. It's a lot of fluff.
But the difference to me is that it is giving you an answer. If you go to Google, you put in that same question, you have to scroll through so many articles, click on so many different links, read so many different things, and just to get one answer. For this, you type in your question, you get the answer. It might not be right all the time. So instead of going through a bunch of articles, now you have to see if that answer is actually correct. But even if it has a 75% accuracy, for 3 out of 4 questions, you are going about your day much quicker than you would without it. Or with
Like,
Google.
Yeah, Keanu, yes, it was a lot of fluff, but that was because I asked it to explain it to a 10-year-old. Like the
Yeah.
first answer was whole written out like explanation of
Wild.
3 different.
It's an app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a website app, OpenAI .com or
It's just
ChatGPT.
crazy because it gives you more of like, you look up how to day trade on Google, and like Champ said, you got to scroll through all these browsers and find an answer. Whereas this, even if it's not necessarily right, it's like you're talking to someone. You're getting more of
Yep.
even though it's obviously AI, you're getting more of a human answer out of it than Google could ever give you. Right. So I think that's why that's a part of it that's a
It
lot better.
filters the information that if you know how to speak to it correctly, it filters the information and expresses it to you the way much faster than you could as if you were going like you should, like everyone was saying, going through Google, searching everything, filtering everything out, like being like, okay, well, I have no idea what the hell this means. Like, so how am I going to understand that when be like, okay, yeah, I have the attention span of a squirrel and the knowledge of a 10-year-old explain to me why inflation is going to affect the market or why, you know, whatever it could be, what dividends are. Like it's crazy.
Now
Yeah.
this brings me to my next point about revenue, where a lot of startups have potentially easy success here is buyouts. I think it was maybe Bing who is like right now trying to put more money into ChatGPT to try and improve their own browsers, right? So Google, Yahoo, all these companies, they see this coming. They've seen this coming well before any of us saw this coming. They've been hiring employees to get stuff like this in the works, right? So now you're going to see them start to invest in stuff like this. Just like you saw Meta go and put in a lot of money into VR. Now you're going to potentially see Google do the same exact thing with AI. They've been doing it, obviously. But now they're seeing that people want this. Very quick mass adoption is what's going to actually move money. Not just the fact that this software is continuing to develop. It's been in development for so long. But now the people are actually wanting to use it right now is when these large cap companies are going to be putting a lot of money into it. Speaking of that, speaking about AI, emerging stocks, everything like that, I want to talk about Cathie Wood really quickly. The other day, she bought about 21,000 shares of Tesla. She is continuing to buy the dip on Tesla. And another statistic, ARK investors, this is ARKK, have lost nearly $11 billion since inception. Not too long ago, just at the end of 2020, ARK investors were up about $10 billion since inception. Quite the opposite move has occurred here, from plus 10 billion to negative 11 billion. My question here is, a lot of the stocks that ARK likes to invest in, very progressive stocks, but also some stocks that were shining during the pandemic, have lost almost all of their value since then. Even names like Apple, Microsoft are still kind of well above those COVID crash lows. For names like Zoom, names like Peloton, work from home lifestyle, what do you guys think those types of companies can do to revive their stocks and their companies? How does Zoom get the attention it once had? Can it ever get the attention it once had for the stock to reach new all-time highs one day?
I personally don't think that Zoom can have like the hype that it had in the beginning, just because of where we were in the economy. I mean, everyone was at home. You went on the news and they were telling you don't go out of your home, right? So everybody's staying at home. Well, how do you get in contact with anybody? They went on Zoom, right? So I think that was the biggest Zoom will ever be, but I don't think that means it's over for Zoom necessarily.
Mhm.
I mean, this could, we could have a whole nother podcast episode on just this topic, because
Yeah.
where the economic atmosphere that we're in right now is very unique compared to a lot of people that weren't around, or it's new for a lot of people that weren't around for the dot-com bubble.
Mhm.
And it's got a lot of similarities to the dot-com bubble in terms of the cycles. Like I've always said, the future is the history with slight changes. It's just a quick cycle. You see fashion come around, whatever. But what you're going to see is, with the things about companies like Zoom and Peloton that had that at-home lifestyle thing, it's not so much about what they're providing as it is what they're projecting and what they're hitting in their targets for their shareholders and their board and things of that nature. So like their targets could be changing depending on, what their projections are, but their overhead could be a lot lower because, they're not making any more bikes. And so all they're having is just monthly income for everything. And they're just focused on, the platform, or they're open up their platform to new people to be able to be like, yeah, come in here, put your workout plan in here, whatever you want. Like they can shift to that because they're not so much on, get your bike, get your treadmill, get this, get that anymore. They can shift to whatever their need is. Zoom is a little
Exactly.
bit different, but I think that Zoom has the right idea of making it accessible to everyone, because there is a like 5% chance that any company, if you don't offer remote jobs, you're not gonna
Get
be able
employees.
to retain or hire employees. Like
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
a part of new life now.
Also, yeah, I like the paradigm shift to not only remote, but it also moved it to the content of your work, hitting sales quotas or whatever, because it was this 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. And now you're kind of earning the chance to be remote, earning the chance to, not necessarily punch the time clock, because when your work is done, it's done. And that's what I always really wanted. I think that that's a big lure of trading, is you can be done whenever you want. You can skip days, like we have chop days or whatever it is, as a day trader. I really, really always hated, and I don't know who likes it, but I'm off at 5 and I'm waiting 15 minutes. Like I remember I was working at Sports Chalet years ago. If you guys remember Sports Chalet, very briefly, I was there for like 3 months, and I was like, you never got off early ever, because the store is open till like 9 p.m. or whatever. And there's nobody in the store. There's nobody. And if somebody walked in, I'm like, the manager could help them. There's nothing even going on. And we would sit there watching the clock and then close. And I'm like, how dumb is this? I want to leave and we're selling nothing. And in the next 30 minutes, if somebody comes in, the manager could help. I'm saying 30 minutes, but it could have been an hour. I don't know. I just can't stand when it's like, I have to be here for a certain number of time. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a server, there's no tables. Hey, who wants to go home? I want to go. Like, nope, you're here till 9. Bullshit.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm at least my age, because I'm in between kind of everyone with Keanu and Jordan. I'm 31. I've seen a pretty wide range of shift in the employee world.
Yeah.
My first job going into the city. Like it was like if you've ever seen the movie Boiler Room with like Ben Affleck,
Love it.
like that was my job. Like you had to be in there, and it was cold calls, but you had to be in a suit and tie every day. You had to be at your desk at 7:45. You had to make 200 phone calls, cold calls every day, and you couldn't leave until 6 p.m.
I love that.
Dude, you had a 15-minute break at 10:15. You had a 15-minute break at 3:15 to 3:30, and you had a 1-hour lunch from 12 to 1 every day, and that was it. And if you were late, you got screamed at. But now it's like, okay, well, I'm in sales. If I hit my quota, why do I need to come in? Or if I'm doing more coming in, wasting my time, to commute into the city every day when I can get up and start working and get 20 more dials in or 50 more dials in. But how does that affect you? It also is less of a burden for the employers, less overhead for, office space, less overhead for paying for, commuter benefits, which is legally required in some states, which again, that gets into a whole different thing. But the words that you hear now are culture, remote, and accountability, and all those things where it's flexibility.
Yeah.
You don't want to be micromanaged anymore. Whereas it used to be, your parents are going to say, you work hard 9 to 5 every day, you go buy a house and it'll 3x in 10 years. Well, not any fucking more, it won't. Like,
try to
that's
work
not,
a 9 to 5 and buy a house nowadays.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna happen, especially in Cali, bro. It ain't gonna happen.
no, that's not the real world anymore. Like, no. But, and Champ, I don't know if you want to, we can like pause real quick. I got to ask you a question that I don't know if you want to cut it out, but we could bring this up for another episode, but like talking about like the acquisition of companies, and how the IPO world kind of shifted because there are so many companies that were supposed to IPO in the last 18 months.
Yep, and did
that
not.
never did.
Yeah.
And what they've done is now take that money, go back to either get money invested in them with VCs, or they start acquiring other companies in their space
Okay.
to help them grow. And now they're trying to basically set themselves up, later on. Again, that's like a whole nother direction, but I wanted to like ask if you wanted to get deeper.
I mean, even in
I
general,
for fucking days.
I'm sure you remember the SPAC era. Oh my gosh, was that fun? And now it's like we're first of all, the SPACs that were around have been, some of them have been the worst performers in this bear market in general. Also, just alongside the IPOs, not a lot of companies are choosing to go the SPAC route anymore, which is kind of a democratic way of IPOing for those of you who weren't trading back then. So right now, I think a lot of companies are in a place where not even just that, but they just might even see the market performance, and they do not want to lose valuation in their company, which is now publicly traded, if the market in general is dragging down a lot of these companies, right? There's a lot of names that have lost a lot of money. I think Tesla's a big one. They might even, like how Tesla I just talked about has improved on deliveries, is now down so much more in stock price from where they were. So companies can continue to grow financially on the books in earnings, right? But if their valuations are going down, number one, that's going to be affecting the big guys, the guys on the board there. But also number two, what is going to happen when out of nowhere you get something like a pandemic, right? And now it's not just about how does the pandemic immediately affect what's going on in your day-to-day business, but also how is the pandemic affecting your stock price? And that can go for anything. It could be a war. It could be any news event that comes out of nowhere. If it drags down the market, it also takes the money away from the people leading these companies, right? That's a major point that I personally have been looking at. And I think it's really just going to line up also with things like interest rates as well. That's going to be a big thing, taking money, getting money to fund yourself from banks. People want money at the end of the day. All right. Everybody wants to make money. That is going to be something that lasts forever. Now, the way in which you can grow your company exponentially for most companies, the best way to do that is through publicly listing your company, right? But that valuation is not always going to be in cash. There's going to be so many other things here. One thing to me that really did a great job of kind of displaying this, splits. How many stocks split? Just like you're not getting a lot of IPOs, so many large caps, Google, Amazon, Tesla, splitting, right? They're seeing this money come out of their valuations. And I'm sure people like Elon Musk, who just lost, I think, $200 billion from his high peak in his net worth, they're thinking about stuff like this. And maybe that is derailing him from doing something like IPOing SpaceX,
100%. That's where a lot of these companies, like on the SEC filing, like you can see the companies that are filing, they have to file certain paperwork quarterly for, 4 quarters before even being able to get listed on, whatever exchange that they want to. And when they are doing that, if you look at it, any company that IPO'd in the last 2 years is down from what their opening price was. And so that goes back to like employment and companies, and you want your employees to be happy. When you were first getting hired, your company's goal was to go be public, like you were saying. That's how you make money. Like
Yep.
you get equity in that company. That's usually a part of your package when you sign with a company that's quote unquote a startup. You get equity, you get shares that you can invest over time. Well, when you're looking to a company that's supposed to say, our roadmap says IPO 2022, and then pandemic happens and every other IPO that you're seeing happening go out, was projected to, go at $30, now trading at $14.50. Like, well, that's not attractive to anyone.
Yeah.
Like, just because of the market, like that's, and things that are out of your control. When you're a privately owned company, you can control that overhead a little bit more, and you can still share that information, publicly and post all that and everything, but you have a little bit more control of everything that is going on internally and less outside factors, which
Exactly.
then, again, goes to everything else that can
Yeah.
go in the economic landscape of things right now.
And this ties back into that whole entire pandemic talk. Sorry, just 1 second, Zeke. About like companies who are just not like Zoom and Peloton, who are just not, their products don't really have the same use anymore and the same popularity, right? Now, the big thing with that is innovation. So you look at companies, Amazon, right? During the dot-com bubble, like you mentioned, Amazon had a high pretty much in January of 2000, around $5. Of course, these are like post-split prices, so it's different then. And it went down to around 20 cents during that dot-com bubble, from $5 to 20 cents. Amazon is now sitting at $86. What did Amazon do? It was primarily books, right? They transitioned into e-commerce. What did a name like Netflix do? I'm sure a lot of you remember there were days when you would pretty much get like a DVD that would come in your mail. Now everything is streaming, right? Apple with, going from the Macintosh to the iPod to the iPhone. Now Apple's looking into cars. They're doing a lot of things with health. You have to be able to rebrand yourself. So companies like Zoom and Peloton, I feel like they shouldn't only feel like they have to deliver that same product in a better way. Scrap the product. You can use the attention you've already created with your stock name. You can use the money you've already made from those previous products to build a new product with the same company. And some of the best companies in the world have been able to do that. So especially for new IPOs, it's a lot tougher to rebrand like that when everybody is investing in your stock publicly, because there's going to be certain expectations. A perfect example of that was Meta. They want to shift from Facebook. I'm sure they saw advertiser money was starting to pull out after a very good 2010 to 2020 decade for advertisers on Facebook. 2021, 2022, that money's just not the same. People are not using Facebook in the same way. What happens when somebody starts to outperform Instagram, TikTok, right? Now they want to see, all right, if this current model is starting to lose traction a little bit, where can we immediately flee to potentially create a new buzz and also make money? Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in 10 years from now. The metaverse was their answer. We'll see if it works or not. But innovation is really crucial for tying all of these topics together. And as an investor, that is something you want to see. But of course, you have to make sure they're doing it the right way, because there's also a lot of companies who failed to do that, blockbuster, and are no longer relevant. I think they have like one store in like Washington or something. I don't know. That's just like a random thing. But Zeke, you were going to say something? Yeah, there was a show recently on Netflix too about Blockbuster. I thought it was pretty ironic.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of changing a little bit, but not really. Like keeping with the SPACs and IPOs and whatnot. I remember seeing like these new companies that came out of nowhere start off at certain valuations, and then all the hype and everything about whatever they were doing or their sector that they were getting into, and all this money would flow in. Like I made like some pretty crazy trades like back when I was pretty new to trading. Like I remember Tilray was the name that ran from like had like $12. I had like X amount of shares and ended up selling like 50 or something, and then like CCIV went on a crazy run too. Did you guys have any crazy like IPO or SPAC names that you had like really good trades on?
When it switched, that's what I had. I loved that trade. That was like my first like taste of profits. Pretty much, I was stoked.
That was mad. I had that at like 12 or something. It ran like all the way to 50, and like this one guy I knew made like so much money. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I got to learn more about it, you know. Um,
There is
yeah,
one guy I want to hear from really quickly. Okay. This is like going way back. There are some people watching this podcast right now that remember this. Okay. Keanu Trades and myself. I'm not trying to pat us on the back right now, but back in the day, Keanu, do you remember what was it, PIC that turned into like XL or something?
Yeah, I just looked it up moments ago, man.
Fisker, Lucid. What was the other one? There was like another big one. Helion. It was like SHLL. Back in the day, just as like short-term trades, I'm just gonna put it here right now. Me and Keanu were crushing everybody else. That is how like both of us kind of had like that huge like initial push on like Twitter and everything. Like we were just going crazy with that. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
We were
XL.
eating
We were
those
charting
up. Oh my gosh.
36. Speaking of Cramer, I bought that. I saw right before market close one day that the XL fleet CEO was going to be on Cramer at like 4 p.m. our time, and the market closes at 1. So I bought it at after hours because I saw that like right after, and it went like 18% after hours. I sold it. That was like one of the few after hours scalps I did, and it went to 36 the next day, and it was never higher. And I just looked it up because I was like, whatever happened to XL? It was delisted in October because it was under $1 for days.
I didn't even know it was
Yeah.
delisted. Wow. That is crazy, man. For
So-
me though, Zeke, it was QS. I think you remember that one. It was like February of last year.
They caught
And
QS too.
yeah,
That was a good one.
QS did me very, very well. It was my
It's like
best trade ever.
best-
Blink,
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
fire, dude. Gosh, those
I mean,
that brings back like just it's nostalgic
good
because
times,
those were
yeah.
like my first. That was the first of it all, basically.
yeah.
It's a bit
That was
all.
the start of the addiction.
What 3 months ago, man, I don't remember the tickers, but a couple of them went from $18 to 100. Remember that? It was like MEGL. I know MEGL did.
No, I wasn't paying
HKD
attention
from
to
like
those.
10 to like
AD.
1,000. That was
HKD?
insane.
Oh my
I
god.
remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
was like super low float, but I don't know.
MEGL today closed at $2.77. It went to $249.94. $250 on August 12th.
It's crazy.
$200
Wow.
the next day, of course, tank.
Yeah, you got to be careful with a lot of names like that. Like you can make money very, very quickly, but you got to be very, very careful, like taking profits. Because in that
The ele-
environment, so many people just get married to it. Go ahead.
It went to like 2 maybe 30. I can't even zoom on it because it's such a new stock. I can't zoom. So then August 12th, it opened at $249.94. It closed at $8.22 the very next day. If you can look at MEGL August charts, it looks like a shitcoin.
That's insane.
How can it even do that and not halt and stop? Wild.
So
Wild.
crazy.
Do you guys see MEGL? So ridiculous.
Yeah, that is. Wow.
It was the IPO run in August. That was the second and third day it traded. And then there was the other one, like you said, Zeke, HE or whatever. Yeah, so they're IPO. But like Cam said, the SPAC run lasted 8 months.
Keanu, can you talk a
Crazy.
little bit like closer to your mic? It's like cutting out.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, better now.
Anyway, so yeah, we did have this IPO run in August. The SPAC run was during COVID for, like I said, 8 months or so. XL, man, that crap's listed. I know, went to $36. A lot of other ones, QS, they were like Bill Gates backed. Oh my god, went to like 130, 140 from like $7. Even Neo went from $2 to like 48.
Crazy.
I mean,
times.
that time will come back. It'll just be different. It'll never repeat exactly.
It'll come back in a very different form, but like that euphoria will for sure be back in the market. It's just going to be with a
Absolutely.
different format.
I think that markets are taking a hit in crypto as well, because people finally have to pull out money to pay for bills.
Yeah.
That's just period. So somebody that's like Ethereum's going to 90 grand and whatever, at some point, you know, something crazy that once in a lifetime happens, like the Giants are good and they got to buy playoff tickets, which is rare. And, you know, people weren't anticipating I'm going to sell my Ethereum. I'm going to sell my Ethereum one day when the Giants make the playoffs. People thought that would be 30 more years, but it's now, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's literally the opposite of summer of 2020. People were getting money, stimulus checks to put into stocks. Now people have to take money out of stocks to pay their bills, right? So it's a very quick flip. You even had like the meme stock era with GameStop and AMC, and it's like those are kind of the signs that typically take place at the end of bull markets. You look at the end of the dot-com bubble, you look at the price action leading up to 2008, even going all the way back into the 1920s with the Great Depression. It's like euphoria is going to be pretty much followed by immense sell-offs. However, we're on the flip side. Right now, we're seeing a lot of fear. That's typically at some point going to be followed by upside. It's just being patient is really the big thing.
Mm-hmm. The psychological cycles that you see on the cycle of any kind of market that you can look up, and you see the same charts or the same cycles, like those really do happen, like to a T, which is very, very wild.
Yeah.
But two things Keanu like mentioned was if you haven't watched the Madoff like documentary that came out on Netflix.
It just came on Netflix, yeah.
Finished it, really? 4 episodes yesterday.
I was gonna watch it this weekend.
But like the only reason that Madoff got caught in 2008 was because people needed exactly what Keanu was saying. People needed to like take money out of the market to start paying bills.
Oh.
And that's because I mean, I don't know how he did it for so long. It's wild. He literally just schmoozed the SEC, like basically tell him like, I'm Bernie Madoff, like you don't need to come in. He was supposed to get caught. He had the SEC team in his office in 2005. He didn't get caught until 2008 because he didn't have any money. But secondly, Brian Daboll is the best coach in the NFL. So suck it, Keanu.
Let's move into sports talk for a quick second here, unless you want to say something else.
Would he have not gotten caught if not for 2008? He wouldn't have gotten caught, like if not for that crash or whatever.
Wait, I don't want to like spoil it for anyone, but like basically what happened was he never made any trades whatsoever. It was all fake, written out big statements. And what he did was literally just write out statements for people when they gave him money. He wrote out statements that were from like 85, printed them out and handed it to his clients. And then it was based on word of mouth that other people brought in money and giving them fake statements. And then he brought another company or had another entity 2 floors down from his Madoff Enterprises investment firm that built, speaking of like AI and programming, built a fake like SEC program that when you typed in their account, when someone wanted to come in, like a client wanted to come into their office and see like shit, like what trades are going on here. Like I want to see what's going on. It would spit out fake trades that they would have. And like it was the only Ponzi scheme in the stock market that never made a single trade at all.
Absolutely insane.
That's wild.
It was
Can't wait to watch it.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
It was already $45 billion.
Oh my god!
You said that's on Netflix?
Netflix.
Yeah, it just came out.
We're all gonna be.
It is
Yeah.
unbelievable. I'm a huge TV guy. Great show.
Dude, I'm just like imagining like closing my eyes right now and just your voice. Like you would have been like the perfect voice actor for like the trailer for this. Like the way you're talking about it. Like they should have hired you for sure, bro.
You should have voiced over trailer, like the Garrity version of the trailer.
Yeah, somebody should edit that, send it to us.
Yeah, I got you, man. Don't worry. Like we could have strictly a TV review show segment. I watch so much.
Start a YouTube channel already, Garrity.
Yeah, absolutely. You should. Plug it right now. What's your YouTube channel?
You film a little Madoff like synopsis You know what I mean? Because I'm hooked already just listening to you.
Trading Addicts Media,
Hey.
YouTube.
TNA.
Yeah, just a reminder,
here.
everybody, make sure you subscribe right now if you've been enjoying this episode. Hit the like button, drop a comment below, and go let us know on social media what you thought so far.
Go hit the
on.
like button, bro.
Yeah, do it
Come
right
on.
now. Do it.
Yes, sir.
Destroy it.
Also,
move over to sports.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Damar Hamlin. Okay. I'm sure all of you saw what happened. To me, that was very, very scary to watch. Out of nowhere. Yeah. What do you guys feel about how that situation was handled? I know during when it was actually happening with like all the, is the game going to get canceled or not? Right now, I am seeing a lot of different reports.
Yeah, it's not being rescheduled.
Canceled
the
it.
NFL had a meeting yesterday that basically wrote out, you can see like all the different outcomes of that game and what the seeding would be in the playoffs if like every single outcome that could possibly happen. And they said that they don't need to replay the game for it to be seeding. If two specific teams make the AFC Championship game, they'll have a neutral site game.
Okay.
Like that's what it is. Again, I watch discussing about sports and football, and the scariest thing about that situation was how ordinary of a play that was.
Yep.
Like it was not a freak tackle or accident, or it was just a play that he has made thousands of times. And I've never seen one. I knew it was bad when the ambulance came on the field immediately. Like the response time was incredible. 2, never seen 25 minutes of commercial breaks in a row like that. Absolutely terrifying. 3, thank God that the only level 1 trauma center in the area was 2.5 minutes away, because otherwise, God knows what would have happened. But
yeah,
thank God he's awake. And
I think he's talking now too with his family and everything.
I was about to say that he, I saw earlier that he actually was able to video chat with his teammates.
Yep.
And they were just like super happy to hear about that, and we're like, that's all we needed to know. Like they're doing better at least.
He's writing. He can write. He does, or at least from the last time and report I read was he still is breathing with like a tube, but he can write and communicate that way. And the first question he asked was, "Did we win?"
Oh my gosh.
The doctor said, "You won the game of life."
Yeah.
Like that's what he told them.
Wow.
And like,
wow.
I don't know.
That just shows his heart though. Like his life is literally on the line. His first question is if they won the game when he wakes up. Like,
right.
That's the teammate you want.
Dedication he
crazy.
has for his craft, right? It's amazing.
So
literally put his life on the line.
Yeah, Joe Rogan and Dave Portnoy. He was on the Joe Rogan show yesterday, a few days ago, that came out, and they were talking about this. And they asked, if you knew at 22 years old you were going to be an NFL superstar, make the kind of money that you were making, but you could potentially end up with either CTE, brain damage, or have something like this, a freak accident, 1 in a million chance, would you still sign up for that? And I would say 95, if not higher, % of people would sign up for that.
Yeah. Well, that's the case though, because any play you could, break your neck and be paralyzed. We see it every 8 years, 9 years, maybe. Someone in college or NFL is hit wrong, not even necessarily hit wrong, like Garrity said, kind of a regular play, and their legs stop moving. You're like, whoa. It's tough. The advancements in helmets and all this stuff doesn't prevent CTE, more concussions, because just like everything else, getting better. We talked about AI, and we can't keep up with stuff, but kids are trained like the movie 300, like to be NFL players at 4 years old, 5 years old, 7, and they're doing laps, and it's just a different animal. So by the time they get to college, high school, my school, Arlington High School here in Riverside, go Lions. They had a JV player die, I believe, on the field. I want to say 8 years ago or so, 10. His name was like Tyler Llewellyn or something, or Lewin. And then, of course, they didn't have enough kids to field a JV team, so everybody was on varsity, and I was surprised they even had a team and stuff. Of course, because it rocked the community. They just won CIF, which is a big deal out here. Jordan probably knows about CIF. It's the California something Federation. Anyway, it's the playoffs. So I didn't think they would ever win in my lifetime, but so it's a good come back around story, right? Have a death to kind of winning. But I think it comes down to, would you put your son in football? And I don't think I would. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I played basketball.
I played football all through high school. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. But like you said, like freak accidents. Eric LeGrand, Rutgers, paralyzed, like football player. Ryan Shazier, Steelers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like freak accident. But so if I understood correctly with the Damar Hamlin situation, it ended up being like it was like a perfect timing of his heartbeat and the hit and where he got hit.
Yeah.
Where that's like what like it was that like where like apparently it just like
Saw
it
it too.
stopped. Yeah, and it like apparently in 6 seconds your blood pressure goes to 0 or something like that, and that's why like everything happened, because it hit and basically just stopped. Like it was in the middle of a beat. He got hit in the right spot at the right time, and it just like stopped his heart.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with like he has a tear in his heart or like some sort of condition.
Well, I'm looking at the hit and I'm like it's crazy that hit did that damage in my head.
Natural.
Like you said, a play that he's done 1,000 times. It's crazy. I mean, I'm just watching the video over and over, and it's like, how did that outcome
Absolutely
come from
terrifying,
that right
dude.
there, right? And it's like you hit the right spot at just the right time.
Yeah.
That's
And
all it
you know what
is.
I mean? It can really screw you up. That's crazy. God.
Back to the community part with what Keanu was saying, but I didn't see it happen. I just saw people talking about it on social media and whatnot. But the way that like sports fans and just football fans and opposing teammates and or opposing like players from the game and just the whole country just kind of came together. Like I saw that during COVID he had a charity that was set up for like kids and families who were like struggling during COVID. It was at like 10 grand or something like that before the game. I checked like at like 1 a.m. but like that night before I went to bed, it was at like $3 million like donated. It was just
He had a
amazing.
GoFundMe goal of $2,500 for a charity. It's
Wow.
now over $9.5 million for the charity.
It's all the way. I haven't seen it in a while. That's insane. Wow.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it also just shows you like you were saying, like both teams were like, you could see on their faces like how serious it was.
I love how they
Yeah.
all came around and they covered Damar. All the teammates and everything.
Well, they were like
covering everyone.
they
I don't want
posted
kids in the
the
stands.
they
And
posted
all that.
the radio communication between the ambulance people and the people on the sidelines and everything like that too. And they were
Really?
saying like, yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. Like, which shows you like how quickly like they were on top of it. But they were like, we wanted people around, but you don't want to see that on national television, and you don't want to have that,
But
portrayed.
it could have gone wrong. It could have been like, hey, maybe this is a stupid example, but nobody knows CPR right here. Like they got on the CPR quickly, and I didn't see the footage of the ambulance going on the field. I just saw like the hit and stuff. But it makes every team in the league and every NCAA check, hey, what is our process if a player goes down and he needs CPR?
They're so on. It's crazy, like how quickly, like if you watch it, how quickly it went from him being down to them having the trainers out there, the head trainer of the Bills out there, on top of also asking for the ambulance to come out immediately, and then they had the independent doctors out there too, giving CPR and resuscitating and everything. Like it was incredible. But also fuck Skip Bayless. And
I saw that
what he
tweet.
said afterwards.
All that too.
Piece of shit, man.
I don't even remember his tweet, but I know that the NFL was saying keep playing, and the players all said no. Such a misstep to playing. What the hell? He could die from it.
Well, the NFL didn't say that they should keep playing. The NFL said that it's postponed indefinitely right now. They didn't say that it was canceled for like an hour.
No, but in the moment, not in the moment, but like at some point they said you're okay to keep playing, and the players said no. Okay to keep playing. Imagine, okay, first down. Oh, we're just getting Damar passed away. Like, keep playing.
Yeah,
Are you out of your mind?
No.
So,
Yeah,
oh my gosh. So I work at a school, high school. There was a school nearby where somebody hopped the fence and like whatever, like an outsider, like a 19-year-old kid hopped the fence or something, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a staff member at some elementary school, whatever." So we had a meeting, and they were like, "Hey, everyone needs to wear their badges. We've been lax on that. Of course, everything relaxes. That's just how everything is." And so that made it like, what's the process? What if there is someone on campus? What do we do? And so we said, hey, there's it's on my desk because we just did it before Christmas, but they're like, there's different levels of like threat level. Like, is it call 911? Is it whatever, right? So there's like new norms, like wear your badge, because if somebody would have hopped on our campus, I don't know what to do. Call security on the walkie-talkie, like, what? But now that happened, there's a process for every school, right? So that's what I mean about even high schools. They could be like, if a kid collapses on the field, do we have a pathway for the ambulance to even get up here? Some schools, there's freaking trees and stuff. The fences are locked. They're trying to keep people out from like, getting in the game free. Is it open for safety purposes? Like, so I think it's a good gut check. Obviously praying for him and anyone that puts on that helmet, like they're really just putting their bodies under a lot for our entertainment and stuff. But we got to make sure these guys are safe no matter what.
Yeah, I think, and this relates to a lot of other things, but giving healthcare to these athletes is so important, like so important. Also helping them financially plan out their futures. There's so many cases of athletes, who just don't have that guidance during their careers to finance themselves correctly. These are people who were just in college heading right into a career where you're making millions of dollars a year. Like, you have to make sure that, I think, not you, but like organizations, advisors, coaches, boards of teams have to put a lot more planning into taking care of these players apart from just throwing money at them. Another point I did want to make too, just tying both those together, this might be something we could just end the episode on. I think it's just something that I wanted to say as well. Thank you. I don't know if we have any first responders that are watching this episode. To all the first responders out there, thank you so much for protecting all of us, putting your lives on the line to save our lives. And from all of us here at Trading Addicts Media, we really do appreciate that. I'm happy that Damar Hamlin has recovered. I hope that he continues to keep getting better. And to everybody, the one thing I really do like about sports is it just brings people together. Like, for people who don't watch sports or not involved with sports, never played sports, they just don't understand it. But there's just something about these games that just connect people. And to me, especially when you said that thing about like the first thing you said when you woke up was like if they won, like having that passion for anything. And I hate to relate this to trading, but this is just like advice I want to give out. Having that amount of passion for anything is what can actually make you really happy, right? So just even tap on like mental health really quickly. Like, for anybody who's like feeling lost or like whatever it is, find something that makes you feel that strongly. It could be anything in life, but find something where, let's say it's for first responders, it's taking care of people. If it's for athletes, it might be making their parents proud, supporting their families. Find something where it gives you purpose, and that will help to just display what life really can mean, if that makes sense. And I just wanted to kind of branch a few random thoughts in my head together to like kind of end off the episode.
That's huge. I'm a very big believer on mental health and not being afraid to talk about it either. Like, I'm very transparent because, like, especially just as a guy too, you have that innate like fear of being vulnerable.
Yeah, like the stigma around, just guys speaking out and stuff like that.
Male macho guy, whatever. Like, no, like I fucked up today on trading. Bad. Like, I was pissed. I am pissed. I am upset. Like, I'm okay to like.
This is why I love Garrett right here. Look at how honest he is right now with himself.
Yeah.
But like, anyone that is going through a shitty time trading or struggling, like that's another thing that we'll talk about on another podcast. But like trading can be very lonely at times,
Yes.
which is why we are doing a part of this and what motivated a lot of us to start this and Spaces and all these other things, because
Yeah.
we're all going through the same thing, but we're doing it alone when we can be doing it together, you know? And it's okay to be frustrated and do the same shit. Like, it's okay to not be okay sometimes, but
Yep.
talk it out. Don't hold on to it, man.
And
And
find
you need
people.
to
Go ahead.
trade.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you need to be able to talk about that stuff with trading, because mental health is a big deal with what we're doing, right? I mean, this shit can toss you into so many circles where you don't even know what to think anymore, right? So I've been there. I've been freaking out after, making plays that I know I shouldn't have made or whatever, but mental health is huge with trading. So yeah, take care of yourself.
I'll talk about
Trading's
this.
like
I want to do like a
90%
full. Go ahead, Seek.
I was just gonna say trading is like 90% mental too, and having
Yeah.
a good community and trying to circle around you is very important to not necessarily just bounce ideas off, but like when you need that support or need that help, you have people you can reach out to. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, you got to keep your mental health in check. This is something I've never talked about anywhere. I don't even know if it was fully due to trading, but this was around last January. I had a really rough streak. Just a couple of different things going on in my life. Full-blown panic attack, emergency room and everything. I had vertigo for months after it. Like, if you don't keep your mental health in check, not only will it affect your trading, it'll affect everything outside of that. So you have to really make sure that you're finding people that you can talk to this stuff about. I know we had somebody on Spaces, I forgot his name, I think it was like Trademaker, talking about like his wife really giving him issues for getting back into trading and everything after he lost some money. You have to find people that will help you out, like listening to our podcast, going and finding different communities, listening to Spaces. You want to make sure that you're not sitting there all day looking at numbers, getting stressed out, because I forgot which one of you said it on Spaces. You're always going to have something to complain about on every single trade, right? There's always going to be, oh, I should have held longer. I know Keanu Trades talks about that psychology a lot. Like, there's always going to be issues. So you need to have people that you can really learn from and talk to about stuff like this to keep yourself mentally in check. And I hope that all of us can come together and create a community to do that. If you guys are not in the Discord, we're going to put the link in the description. Join our Trading Addicts Discord. And I mean, the name is in it, Addicts. Like, a lot of us, we love this, like actually love this. So talk about it with other people. Let us know what you're thinking.
I wake up every morning, champ. We're addicts, baby.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah.
Waking up all
I
early.
believe it, man.
First thing I
I
think
believe it.
about.
Yeah.
It
Dick.
is.
Trading Addicts Podcast, baby.
You know those memes where it's like he's thinking about other women and then it shows his thoughts and it's like a chart. So
Yeah.
Keanu, you have to like,
He's
bro.
cheating on me. Man, it really hit supply and resistance
Gotta
today.
bring it up right now.
Yeah.
that retest. Why did I miss that retest?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah.
I'm not trying to like show everything. Literally, I don't even know this will read on the screen. That exact meme, I don't even know if you can see the time. Yesterday, I screenshotted it.
Oh,
Yesterday, I screenshotted that one, bro. That's crazy that
Yeah,
you
but-
mentioned that.
So, like, Champ, like you were saying too, like you've gone through shit. I've gone through very similar situation, still do, and like I'm sure we'll get into it at another point in time. But like again, putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, like that's takes bigger balls than keeping it in. Like
Mhm.
Yep.
you know, so like it's okay to talk about it. Like that's it. But
It's hard to talk
like
because
the video.
we're expected to, be green all the time and make big plays. And I'm like, oh, I had a red day. And people are like, oh my God, just because I have a bunch of followers doesn't mean I don't have red days.
Yeah.
But, I picked out when Champ talked to me, I was like, I want Jordan, I want Garrity, and guys that talk about it, that are transparent, talk about our setups, what we're entering, and, talk about life. I've hung out with Jordan a handful of times, Garrity soon, but we're real people. And anxiety is no fun. I get almost every single day DMs from people that say, I blew up my account, I'm down to my last $500, something. And because it's private, they don't want to put that on Front Street on Twitter and stuff, so it's a DM, and I put my phone number in my Twitter just so people have that outlet always. And I've said, I think you need to go to therapy. It's beyond my scope. I can give you trading, support, but this is beyond, I'm just a guy. So it's a what is a Discord? What is FinTwit? All this. It's just a support group and we're united through trading.
Yeah.
Some of us share other interests, but it unites us through that. And it's really exciting to meet new people that, this hobby has really taken off, and this day trading hobby, like Jordan said, with COVID has really taken off and stuff. And, find your people, find your corner, find your circle. Maybe you can add this podcast to your corner and circle. If not, we're going to keep going, whether we have one listener or 500. We need this. And so I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap it up. That's our first episode. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, join the Discord at TA Addicts Media on Twitter, at Trading Addicts Media on Instagram and TikTok. Go check all of that out. And first episode in the books. And remember, we will see you.
Go.
Do it right now. We will see you next week. All right.
Share. Let's go.
We'll see you next week. Chillest trading podcast in the world. And we are out.